Hello, and welcome to episode 38 of Friends of the Show. I am Stephen W. Skinner, and this is the podcast where I talk with some of the nice folks who I've connected with through Twitter. They are the Friends of the Show. This week's friend is Ben at Benicus_Rex, a very nice and thoughtful fellow. Ben shares stories of his adopted animal family and goes deep on some theories from his PhD dissertation about robots. You'll be glad to hear we answer some questions submitted by our listeners. So thank you, question submitters. Engage audio receptors. It's Friends of the Show, episode 38, with at Benicus_Rex.
Therefore, we now ask you, the actors of our time, a time of changes and of boundless mastery of all nature, even men's own, at last, to change yourselves and show us mankind's world as it really is, made by men and open to their improvements. Bertolt Brecht.
Bertolt Brecht from his Address to Danish Working-Class Actors, I believe. What a great quote.
It is a great quote. Thank you.
So
that is exactly what it's from. You're right.
That is exactly what it's from. I just know these things because I'm incredibly intelligent. So thanks for that great quote. And welcome to the podcast, Ben.
Thank you for having me, Stephen.
All right. Now, for the listeners, Ben is a very nice and fun Twitter cat whom love being online. And Ben really loves animals and is incredibly smart, judging by the PhD and the dissertation that I tried to read that he sent to me. He's also great at captions for pictures and GIFs. A lot of his tweets are fun pictures with awesome captions. And I'm very lucky to have him join me for this special morning episode of Friends of the Show. So welcome again, Ben at Benicus_Rex.
Well, thank you for having me, Stephen. And you point out two things, that it's a morning podcast and that I love animals. Part of the reason I scheduled it for when I did is because there's 3 dogs in the house and they go out at specific times. And so I wanted to make sure to schedule the podcast in between them going out in the morning and going out in the afternoon so that they wouldn't come and interrupt me during the podcast.
I really appreciate that, Ben. And yeah. I'm sure the animals appreciate it too, working around their schedule and mine. So, yeah, I appreciate that. And, yeah, love animals. We're both fans of animals. So you have 3 dogs in the house. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So one of the dogs, his name is Stan. Stan is, of the 3 dogs, he's probably the most popular one on Twitter. People love Stan. He has a certain charm about him.
Okay.
He's a Shih Tzu. And, like, when I say he's got a certain charm, I mean, you got to understand, to look at this dog, he's like not conventionally cute.
Okay.
He's got these bow legs and these like giant bug eyes and like this massive underbite. And so like his top lip will sometimes get caught.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's got, so like his bottom teeth will just be jutting out and like his top lip gets caught on that. And he just like looks at you with this like weird crooked teeth grin and his bug eyes. But that is why he is so lovely.
He's endearing with his unique looks. He's like a character actor of dogs.
Exactly. And so Stan is really great. He was a rescue from a shelter.
Well, that's great.
And Stan, of course, has a very charming story. He was formerly, we presume anyway, formerly abused by his previous owner.
Hate to hear that.
The shelter doesn't, I mean, we don't know for sure because the shelter found him, like they just found him on the street.
Oh, right.
And so, but his behavior indicated that he was probably not treated particularly well.
That's not good. So he's a little bit apprehensive, or he was a bit scared?
Well, he was at first, but he has come around.
That's great. You're fixing him, working on it.
He still has moments.
Okay.
I took him to the groomer a couple weeks ago, and like when he was finished, he just would not come out of his cage. And the groomer, like, they had to have me come get it because he was like growling it. at anyone else who was trying to get him out of the cage.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, he'll like have these moments where he's nervous or scared around strangers.
Well, sometimes I'm like that after a haircut too. I recently got a haircut and it wasn't great, and I felt like staying in my cage as well. But we got to get out there and fix the haircut. So I can understand where Stan was coming from on that one.
I'm also extremely apprehensive around strangers, so I totally get it.
It's a good match.
Well, so I tweeted this out one time, but and this is a true story from my life. I went to go. I was at the barber one time, and if you've seen pictures of me that I have posted on the internet, you may be shocked to wonder why I go to a barber, because my hair is really short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really short, I mean I'm bald.
No, you keep it at a nice short level, easy to maintain.
Yes.
I say.
Yes. So every once in a while, I just don't feel like doing it myself. So I go to a barber. And anyway, so I'm at the barber, and he's shaving my head or whatever, and he's making small talk, which is always just totally awkward.
I never do. I close my eyes and try to hope that they don't talk to me. That sounds bad, but it's my MO for haircuts.
I'm about the same way. Just like my sister mentioned that she wants to start like a hair salon where I don't remember like all the details, but basically like you fill out a card or something at the beginning that's like, yes, you can talk to me, or please do not talk to me, something like that, to like let them know ahead of time that you'd just rather not engage.
I think it's like some taxis have that or whatever.
So so the barber, he's like shaving my head, and he asks me, he's asking about my life. Are you married? No. Do you have any kids? And I said, I don't. No. As in, I don't, N-O.
Yeah. Not then, I don't know.
Right. But then the barber, he stopped asking me questions after that. He just got like really, really quiet. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's the end of the conversation. And then I didn't realize till I left and I was driving home, I was like, oh, he thought
he thought you were just like shutting the conversation down with like a weird answer.
Yeah, like I don't know. Right. And
don't ask me about things.
So point is, I understand being apprehensive around strangers, because I too am a really awkward person.
All right. Well, great. And shout out to Stan. Who else we got on the line on the cards?
So there's Sapphire. She is a purebred golden retriever. She was a guide dog in training who did not
flunked
pass
out. Flunked out.
Yes, she flunked out.
That's okay.
She's got some like anxiety issues.
Right. I mean, that's really hard anyway, right? Like that whole becoming a guide dog thing, that's pretty intense.
Right. It's got like a 50% pass fail. I mean, I'm not sure the exact statistics, but last I heard it was something along those lines.
Right.
A lot of dogs just don't make it.
Yeah, you don't have the stuff that it takes. It's a lot.
Right. And so she's a golden retriever. She's beautiful. It's interesting to look at her and Stan together, because Sapphire is like conventionally beautiful when you think of like the way in which we might call dogs conventionally beautiful.
Mm-hmm. She could be in one of those golden retriever calendars that you see.
Exactly. And Stan, is like a little gremlin, but that he really grows on you. And so Sapphire, she's like I said, she's got anxiety. She likes to dig. And so in the backyard, so you have to give her plenty of attention, play fetch, take her for walks, things like that, so that she gets the attention that she needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Tanyan, which is short for D'Artagnan.
Okay, I was like, that's a cool name, but also still a cool name.
He's also a rescue, but he's a pit bull golden retriever mix.
Well, that's a wild mix.
Yes, and he is a very strong, very muscular dog.
Yeah, he gets that from the pit bull side.
Yeah. And interestingly, of the three dogs, he's the one who gets along with the cat the best.
All right, that's interesting.
Because I guess when he was a puppy, he grew up around a cat.
Oh, that's important.
I agree. So he's perfectly comfortable with my cat, who I only recently god, actually, and his name is Odin.
Oh, okay.
And he's sitting behind me right now, licking his arms.
Shout out to Odin.
Yeah. So he's great. I guess my brother and his wife were looking for a home, and one of the houses they checked out, the owners had this cat, and the place they were moving to, they couldn't keep the cat, and so they noticed that my brother seemed to really bond with it. So they asked them if they wanted the cat, and my brother and his wife were like, well, I mean, we got a kid on the way, money might be tight. So they asked me if I wanted it, and of course the answer is yes.
You can't say no. You clearly, you're like Ace Ventura, pet detective. You open the door, all the animal friends come to you. You love them.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't say no. So that's the lineup. We got Stan, we got Sapphire, we got Tanyan, and we got Odin. That's the whole list?
That's them, yep.
That is a full house. So how are the other dogs with the cat? They chase him around, or they like keep their distance?
I think initially when I first got the cat, they were very curious, like extremely curious. And they would try to chase him. And so I had to keep a gate up to keep them separated. But it's been long enough now that the gate now I only put the gate to bar the dogs away from the litter box and the cat food.
Okay.
And so they're comfortable enough around each other that there's freedom. I think the dogs want to play with the cat.
Right. Yeah, they don't get it. That cat doesn't play the same way.
Right. In fact, just the other day, I was playing, like I've got this string toy, and I was playing with the string toy with the cat. And the cat's super into it. And the dogs had no idea what's going on. They clearly were like, playtime is happening, and we want in, but we don't understand what the game is or what the rules are. So first Stan comes over to the cat and tries to like indicate that he wants to wrestle, like not in an aggressive way, but in like a playful dog sort of way. Mm-hmm. Cat was not having it. Just gave him a little smack across the face.
Yep.
Not with his claws out, just a
paw.
Please leave me alone. So Stan walks away. So then Sapphire's like, maybe I'll try. So Sapphire starts doing that thing that dogs do where, they get down with their two front paws and their back paws are up. Yeah. Right. They were like indicating that they want to play. And so he's trying to be like, hey, cat, let's run and chase each other. Giving all the body language. The cat just looks at the dog. The dog runs over to the cat to see if the cat will run, and the cat just smacks Sapphire across the face. And so Sapphire's like, okay, well, I guess we're not playing with the cat.
And they never have since. But I'm sure they'll grow, like the space will get better and they'll start sharing it better. And once they just get used to each other more, I think. I have faith.
Right. They all sleep on my bed. I mean, it's not that the cat hates the dogs. The cat just wants to be left alone.
Yeah. Classic cat, right?
Right.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Sounds like you got a great setup over there. A lot of fun animal time happening all day, every day. So lovely. Thank you for sharing your animal family with us.
Oh, yes. You're very welcome.
All right.
And there's plenty of pictures of them on my Twitter, so if you're curious to know what they look like,
check it out. And maybe I'll
check out my media page.
I'll post some in the show notes as well. Go check these guys out. So now let's get into your story. And the story that Ben has provided for us is called The Challenge Meal.
Okay. So I always have a really hard time when someone asks, tell us a story from your life, just like coming up with something. I will say that this is the first story that like popped into my head as a story that I would, as a story to tell. I'm not sure it's the greatest story from my life, but it's something that has stuck with me for like a really long time.
This is the go-to.
This was years ago. This was, this had to be like 16 years ago. I mean, it was like a long time ago.
Talking early 2000s, everyone.
Yes. I think it might have actually been the year 2000, in fact.
The year 2000.
So my friends and I have been talking about this place called, this is really the name of the burger joint. It's called Fuddruckers.
Yeah. Great name.
I don't think it's a national chain. Like, I think it might just be regional. And in fact, I'm not even sure that Fuddruckers still even exists here. I haven't checked.
Buddy, I'm looking it up, and Fuddruckers is even in Ontario. It's in Canada.
Oh, wow. I have heard that, like, in Florida, they've got a place called Fudd Puckers.
Oh, rip off.
I don't know if it's like the same company, sort of like how Carl's Jr. and Hardee's are like the same company.
Oh, yeah, tricky.
I'm not sure. But anyway, so Fuddruckers. And they wanted to go to this place because they have this...
Because they have the greatest burger?
Well, no.
World's greatest hamburgers.
In fact, their burgers taste like soap. They were just
dang.
horrid.
False advertising.
But what they do have is this thing called the challenge meal. And if Americans are good at anything, it's overeating. So the challenge meal, it costs like $18. And this was, early 2000s money, right?
Oh, yeah. Before inflation.
Talking like a really expensive meal. $18 for this challenge meal. And what it was a 1 pound patty. Not a 1 pound burger.
Right.
Just the patty itself is 1 pound. And then this giant bun. And then there were only like really specific burgers you could get with it because they didn't want you to just get the patty and the bun.
Yeah,
you had to have more. Like, so there were like, the one that I got was like a mushroom Swiss bacon.
Oh, yeah.
And then a large order of chili cheese fries and a large drink.
Do you have to have the drink? Do you have to finish the drink?
You have to finish. Yeah, you got to finish everything. No, it's also a large sundae and a large drink. That's right.
Sundae.
So large sundae, large order of chili cheese fries, huge burger, 1 pound patty. I mean, this thing is massive. And if you can finish all of it in one sitting without going to the bathroom, then you get your picture on the wall and a T-shirt.
Yes. If the listeners listened to the episode with Brandon at La Bear Girdle, he also had a story about a challenge meal where you get a T-shirt. So I guess it's a pretty common thing.
Did he succeed?
He did. I mean, no, listen to the episode. Everybody go back and listen to the episode. No, but he did.
Okay.
He got the T-shirt, but he says on the episode that it was not worth it.
Well, that was okay. I will say the point of the story isn't that I succeeded, because I didn't. I actually failed. And that's not the super interesting part. I mean, and I will say I shouldn't have even tried. I mean, I didn't eat anything for the entire next day.
Oh, wow.
Like, because I just felt horrid.
What about
like,
leading
I had a
up
hard
to
time,
it?
like, walking to my car afterwards because I just felt.
What did you fast before leading up to it, or did you just like, eh?
So I ate some leading up to it because I didn't want to, I felt like if I didn't eat anything, then it would have been, my stomach would have shrunk or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
The science behind
There's
it.
different theories about that. Yeah.
But I felt like if I didn't eat anything, leading up to it, then I wouldn't be able to eat as much. So I ate some, little teeny just sort of bits throughout the day, like little crackers and stuff, just to prep myself.
I get it. Keep those stomach juices flowing.
And I will say, I didn't even come close. I think I finished the chili cheese fries and maybe half the burger, and that was it. And that alone, I already was feeling like.
What was your methodology? Were you like a bite of chili cheese fries, a bite of the burger, or you're like finish the chili cheese fries, start on the burger?
I did the chili cheese fries first. I've got this weird habit that I got from my dad. So my dad, growing up, whenever we would have burger and fries, for whatever reason, he would always eat his fries first and then his burger. And he explained to me his reasoning, and I actually think it's sound reasoning, which is that the fries get cold faster.
Okay, yeah, true.
And your burger is, wrapped in its little wrapping, it's going to be fine. It'll retain its heat longer. But if you wait to eat the fries, then they'll be cold. So you eat the fries first while they're still warm, then you eat the burger. And so I've had that. That's a habit that I have picked up. So I just had to eat the fries first. I mean, it's just,
that's your MO for burgers and fries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been doing it since I was a kid. So I ate the fries first, then I went for the burger, and I couldn't get halfway through. So, but the point of the story, and the reason this has always stuck with me, is because we came there fairly late anyway, and they were like closing up and putting the, wiping down the tables, putting the chairs up. I was like, me and my friend were the last two people in the restaurant. And so the waitress was coming over and was talking to us, and she told us a story about a guy who had come in the week before to do the challenge meal. So really my story is about someone else's story.
All right. Hit us with this story within a story, the inception of this story.
So she said that this guy comes in to try the challenge meal. And again, you've got to finish the entire thing, and you have to do it in one sitting. And one sitting means you cannot get up and go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Because you could go to the bathroom and vomit or something and come back and finish it, and that would be cheating. So you've got to do it in one sitting. So this guy comes in, he's working on the challenge meal. He finishes everything except one bite of his burger. And this is it. Once he finishes that bite of his burger, he's done. So, but you can tell he's like
in pain,
having a rough time, right? He's clearly in pain. So he puts the burger in his mouth. He starts chewing, and you just like see it. He's gonna hurl. So he grabs his. So he starts to throw up, and he grabs his cup, throws up into the cup, and then drinks it.
No.
Well, so he completed the challenge. So he got his picture on the wall and a T-shirt.
At what cost, Ben?
At
what cost?
So that's that. Anyway, that was the first story that came to my mind when you said tell a story. It's always stuck with me. Is this image of this, and really just a mental image because I didn't see it myself, but of this man who wanted this free T-shirt so badly he drank his own vomit.
And the picture, right? Your picture on the wall, like that's celebrity level shit.
That's true. I wish I had asked her to point out the picture so that I could still go to Fuddruckers today to see if it's still up.
This is the guy. Wow. Well, what a crazy story. I did not expect that to second story come out of nowhere, but thank you for sharing that with us. So, ever gonna go back to Fuddruckers? You don't have to get the challenge meal.
Well, so I haven't been back since for two reasons. One, of course, because I was eating that much food, feeling that full was just such an unpleasant experience that I just associate Fuddruckers with that.
Yeah, I get it.
Another reason is that I thought the burgers were disgusting. I mean, I thought it tasted like soap, like dish soap.
Okay, definitely a something soapy about it.
Like dirty dish soap. Yeah, there was some. It was horrid.
All right,
and then the third reason is I've actually recently, as of the new year, gone vegetarian. So,
congratulations on your healthy choice. How's it going?
So I will not be getting a burger at Fuddruckers.
Well, that's great. Do you feel better about being vegetarian?
Well, I will say the primary reason I did it wasn't for health reasons. I'm not convinced I'm necessarily eating any better than I was before. The primary reason is mostly that the meat industry is...
Yeah, it's bad.
Really
you just love animals too much, Ben.
Exactly. And so I was like, well, it's hard to sort of reconcile. I'll take Stan on walks, and there's these I live in a fairly rural area. And so when I'll take Stan out on a walk, and Stan loves to visit the cows and the horses that live nearby.
Yes.
And so it's just, I just find it sort of hard to reconcile, oh, hey, let's go visit these animals who then come up to you and lick your hand and they want to get pet. And then to then, eat them. You know what I mean?
Eat their cousin or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So
I understand. Well, I applaud your moral stance better than what I can claim to. I love animals, but still eating chicken and beef over here. Jeez.
Well, look, meat is incredibly tasty. There's a local burrito place that I went to yesterday, and I typically will get the sweet pork burrito there. And I went there yesterday and I got just the vegetarian one, which is just extra rice and beans and free guac.
Free guac? And that's okay.
Yeah. And it was tasty. I mean, it was fine, but there's certainly a texture and a taste that's missing.
Yeah.
And so I totally get it. Meat's delicious.
All right. Well, like I said, I applaud your decision to stay strong for the animals. Hey, every little bit helps, because I'm over here eating meat, but every, burger off the table can help in some way, right?
That's yes.
That's the key.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And now we get into talking Twitter. So, how long you been on Twitter?
Okay. So, if you go to my Twitter page, it's going to say joined in it tells you when they joined, right?
Oh, does it?
Let me see. It's going to say
I should just cut this question right out. I could just research this myself.
joined September 2015.
But
except that's not correct.
Misleading.
It is misleading because this is actually my third Twitter account.
Your third, you say, not even your second.
Yeah, my third Twitter account. My first Twitter account, I got on sort of for fun, just to see what this Twitter thing was all about. I think I maybe had 20 followers, and this was back in 2012. So yes. 2012. And then I just deleted it. I was like, whatever, this is dumb.
Yeah.
A couple months later, I was like, maybe that Twitter thing was fun. I'll give it another shot. So I had to make a new account because after you delete your account, after a month or something, it's gone forever.
Okay.
So I made a new account. Actually, made some friends. People that I'm still friends with on Twitter. And I started to have a lot of fun. And then for multiple reasons, I wound up deleting that one again.
Okay. But how long did it take this time before you delete it? Was it a year?
It was I think it was 6 months.
Okay,
again.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then I came back. And so this is my third account.
So the third time it's stuck.
I joined September 2015. Third time's the charm. And I think on my last account, I had maybe 400 followers.
All right. Okay.
And so now I'm over 2,000 on this one. So I feel like if I delete this one and come back, then I'll
hit that 10K
So
mark.
anyone listening, the secret to Twitter is just delete your account and then make a new one.
Start
and then
again.
delete that account and make a new one. And before you know it, you're Twitter famous.
It's the organic growth method.
Right. It's a flaw proof. The logic is flawless. It will work for anyone.
The sample size is one, but... All right, so how'd you choose your handle? Which I repeat to the listeners is Benicus_Rex.
Okay, well, so first off, just a quick funny story about underscores. It has nothing to do with this underscore, just underscores generally. This is, again, a story from the late 90s, early 2000s. I was still in high school. I hope I'm not, dating myself too much here. So, I did marching band in high school, like all of the popular cool kids do.
Awesome. Now this is getting interesting.
And we were doing a field show up somewhere up north, like 2 hours north. And a girl who had just graduated was now in college there, and she was in marching band there. And she came over to say hi to us because, it's your old marching band buddies. And I was like, hey, let's keep in touch. And she was like, okay. And this was before social media, before AIM. This was back when the way that everybody, I guess AIM might have existed. Anyway, the point is the way people kept in touch back then was email. That was the cool, hip way to keep in touch with your friends. So I needed her email address. So she was like, well, my email address is,
Name.
cool_Betsy, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I just remember there was an underscore in it. And I was like, okay. All right, cool_Betsy at, hotmail.com or, whatever. I was like, all right, I will add you and send you an email. So I go to send her an email and I type out cool. And then I type out UNDERSCORE, Betsy at hotmail.com. And I send it and it's like, this is not a real email address. I was like, what? This is the email address you told me.
Bounce back.
So I didn't know what an underscore was. I was just like, okay, underscore. That's an interesting word to put in your email, but I'll roll with it. So yes. So
you learned the hard way.
I learned the hard way what an underscore was.
And it's been stuck with you ever since.
It has. So a good friend of mine, he always used to call me Benicus Rex. And I think it was because it sounded like Oedipus Rex.
Yeah.
Or like a, like a dinosaur or whatever, but I think it was because it sounded like Oedipus Rex, so he called me Bennicus Rex. Now, I don't think he had read Oedipus Rex. I definitely hadn't at the time. So I was just like, oh, Bennicus Rex. That's cool. I'm going to use that for everything. So I've basically been using that for like practically every non-professional sort of login name.
Right.
For years.
Well, shout out to that friend.
So yeah, he gave me that name. It's not something that I chose. It chose me.
Right. Very cool.
I think if I had read Oedipus Rex at the time,
he might have
and was sort of like aware of Oedipus's
predilections,
yes,
or whatever,
predilections, or right. I
story.
probably would have gone with something else. But I like Bennicus Rex. It's got a nice ring to it.
Very cool. All right. So what is your fondest memory of something that's happened on Twitter?
Okay. Just last night, for instance, here's a fond memory. So I tweeted out, I was like, hey, two of my favorite friends on here are Warm Yellow Light and Walrus Lifestyle. And if you're not following them, you should, because their tweets are great and they're fun to interact with. And so they start chiming in with some fun interactions, and I send a fun GIF, and other people who also follow us started joining the conversation. And I just find those sorts of fun, silly interactions to be really fun and nice. And really ultimately the reason I stay on Twitter is the jokes are fun, but having friends and interacting with them is really nice.
Ben, you got that right. That's 100% the real fun of Twitter.
Right. I agree. So it was just it's not really anything big. It's not a big deal. It was just a fun little interaction that just sort of happened spontaneously among Twitter friends that I like spending time with on Twitter.
Oh, great. So yeah, that's something that you like.
Right. And I think that's a regular enough occurrence that ultimately, again, like I said, the biggest reason I think to stay is that Twitter is a fun place to make friends.
Yeah, it's a social media.
Right. I agree. And I like interacting with my friends on Twitter.
Great. Well, shout out to those accounts. I believe I follow them. They're great. All right. Now, the next question is, have you had any memorable interaction with a celebrity or brand? And it's okay if you haven't. Not everybody @replies Shaq or whatever. You don't have to. But sometimes it's interesting.
So I think I used to, just for fun, try to, this was back in, again, the 2012 days, mm-hmm. where Xbox support would respond to everybody.
Okay.
And so I used to always, at Xbox support, help, my gopher is crawling out of my Xbox. What do I do? Or, something, and they'd respond. I just, something stupid.
That's fine. I think that counts.
Sure. That might count. I posted a picture of my dogs once, Tanyan and Stan, and it was just a fun little pic, but it wound up getting, what's his name? Who plays Ron Swanson? What's that actor's name?
Yes, I should know that person's name, married to Megan Mullally, but I can't think.
I've gotta, hang on,
I can only ever think of Ron Swanson.
Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman.
Right. I guess he retweeted it. So that's probably the biggest
That's great.
account that's ever
And that's a good one. I mean, that's a great one. He's great and a great woodworker. Everyone go buy a piece of his woodworking business or whatever.
So it's one of my top tweets because a celebrity retweeted it.
That's what we're looking for. All right. So now I ask you, what would be your dream follow back? So this is someone that you currently follow who you would love a follow back.
That I currently follow.
Yeah.
That I would like to follow me back. Well, let's say the Katsu account then.
Katsu. What was that?
It's they're just an account that posts cat pictures.
Okay, very good.
That are tend to be really, really great. And what I like about them is they've got this automated bot set up where if you write @Katsu _cat and then tweet that, they'll the account will send you just a random cat picture.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, listeners, something for you to do right now.
It's great. It's great fun. And I think it refreshes. I think they said once a minute or something. So you can't do it like
right. You can't do it a million times.
You can't spam it, but it's fun to do. And every once in a while, when I'm like, I want a cat picture, I just at Katsu cat, and I get my cool cat picture.
That's
it's great fun.
Yeah, those some of those bots are pretty fun, where you can interact with them, and it's just a robot, but it's still fun. Robots, we'll get into it later. That's a tease, listeners. All right, now the final question from my Talking Twitter segment is, what would be your ultimate dream follow back? Now, I'm talking any person, real or fictional, living or dead. Who would you want to follow you on Twitter?
So real or fictional, living or dead, like if they were alive today and had a Twitter account?
Yeah. Well, they don't have to. In this scenario, they have one.
So in this scenario, okay, they have a Twitter account. Let's say, oh man, real or fictional.
There's so many. There's literally billions of options.
Right. There are a lot of options. Oh boy.
First thing that comes to mind.
Let's say. Well, the first thing that came to mind, I guess, was I was like, well, even if this sounds sort of cheesy, I would say if Jesus were alive today.
Okay, see, that's a great one.
Right, because it's like, because people are going to be like, I wonder who Jesus follows, because that'd be like a big deal, right? And they go to check Jesus's page and see like, oh, he follows Bennicus Rex. He must be a cool guy. We should follow him.
It'd also be funny if he only really had 12 followers or whatever.
Yes. So yeah, I feel like if that would just be like.
And what would Jesus' account be? It would just be all like, quote tweets of inspirational pictures or something.
Right. Or, come on down to, where,
I'll be
Galilee
speaking
for
at
some free bread from 9 to 12.
There will be wine. All right. Well, that's a great pick. So thank you for answering all of my Twitter questions. And now we get into the tweets. So you have selected a tweet of your own, and it isn't your most popular, but it is your second most popular. So is your most popular that the Ron Swanson retweet?
No. My most popular is a political tweet. It was after, I believe it was Jason Chaffetz had said like, if you want health insurance, you gotta stop buying iPhones or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Really just sort of like tone deaf kind of
real dumb. You want to buy a house? Stop buying avocado toast.
And lack of insurance, right? Things like that. And so the tweet is something like, hey, so I see you got chemo that costs $200,000. Sounds like what you need is to cancel your Netflix subscription.
Right.
It was just like a timely political tweet that
struck a chord.
Right. I mean, I'm sure if I tweeted the same thing right now, it'd get like 5 likes.
Right. It was a zeitgeist moment.
Exactly.
All right. So the first tweet that you have shared with us is, like many of your tweets are, a GIF with a great caption. So I think we should describe what the GIF is. It's a cat in a truck wearing a hat, and he's like looking at the camera, and then in like a slow, sad motion, sort of like turns away, and his face is reflected in the side mirror. And it's just a great tweet, great GIF. But the caption is what really sells it. So the caption that you've written is, when you write a good tweet and you wait for the faves, but they don't come. So it's just, if you read that caption, watch the GIF, it's just like the perfect pairing of the sad cat. He's just so like sad, and he turns away.
I'm laughing not at my own tweet, but at your voice, the tweet reading voice.
Tweet read voice, that's correct.
It's good.
It's my radio voice. So that's a great tweet. One of the best. I've retweeted it countless times. It's so good. Whenever I come upon that, I have to put it back in the TL. So thank you for selecting that one. And now my pick of Ben's tweet is this. If you ask a police dog if he's a good boy, legally he has to tell you. Classic. Have you ever tried that?
I have I have not. So I haven't tried talking to a police dog.
All right. So thank you. Those are great tweets, and everyone should be following at Benicus_Rex, and that is the actual underscore symbol, not the word underscore, in case you're following along. And now we get into your picks from others. And would you like to read one of these? You don't have to. I'll do it.
Yes. Let me pull them up. So,
Beep, beep, boop, boop, boop.
Okay. So this one is from, hey, and it's, as long as we're talking about the underscore versus writing out the underscore. This is from Flora __ Flora, and that's the at, but she's written out her display name as Flora _ Flora. So this is a person that you should absolutely.
Oh yeah, she's great.
If you're not, I mean,
real fun.
Really, just one of the best accounts.
Just fun and silly stuff all the time.
So the tweet is, you know how in a box of chocolates, there's always one disgusting one? That was my idea. I came up with that. Put a gross one in there, I said.
Flora again. The great tweet.
And I picked that one because, I mean, it's not only just like a great, she's got a voice that's so, like her Twitter voice is
very
just
specific.
a delightful voice. It's very specific. Like you sort of always know when it's a Flora tweet. Like it's just a delightful voice. Like the things that she writes are just so absurd, but also this one I find is not only just sort of absurd and silly, but relatable.
Exactly.
Like,
it's
because
that line.
Like literally every single time I open up a box of chocolates and have a chocolate, I think about that tweet because there always is.
Yeah. I mean,
just
first,
that one.
You never know what you're going to get. And then, but you do know that you are going to get a gross one.
Right. It's like, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. It's one of those things of life.
Yeah.
Well, great selection. And I'll hit us with the second tweet that you have selected. It is from the aforementioned at Walrus Lifestyle. And the tweet is, "My cardigans!" Runs back into burning building. Because the cardigans. Gonna save those cardies.
Right. And I love the like absurdist simplicity about it. Like it's such a, so I think so often like, you know, so-called weird Twitter. I'm not convinced that's an apt descriptor. This, you know, it often tweets out sort of like weird or like absurdist scenarios. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times those scenarios are like long and complex scenarios, and I love the just like absurd simplicity of this particular scenario. There's like this entire world contained in just a few words.
That's perfect. And I think
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I also like the super simple or shorter ones. If you can pack a absurd or a punch into like less than, I don't know, 10 or 15 words, then that's what I really love, because that's sort of the original MO of Twitter. Keep it succinct, keep it tight, keep it light.
Right, I agree. I think that 280 characters is
shame.
An unwise decision, because it's not what the medium's about.
No.
Right? Or like this addition of like making threads easier to see. Like, I mean,
the algorithm.
I'm just not like Twitter is best as a short form narrative. Or like a short form, like art form.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it used to force you to
art form. But I've found that like when I write a tweet that didn't fit in the old character count, I'd have to look at it and say what's essential in this tweet and what's unessential. Like what can I cut? And I found that my tweets are almost always better forcing myself to cut things.
That's right.
Than being a little more verbose. Like your style, for instance, is always like short little puns.
As short as you can get them.
Right, as sort of short as they can be. And I think that's like Twitter at its best. These really just short, effective microblogs, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Very microblog.
And I 100% agree with you. 100% agreement here.
You know, and people, you know, will retweet these Seth Abramson threads into my timeline and like, not to say anything about the relative merits of or importance of those threads. I'm just like, this is Twitter. I don't want to read all of this.
That's exactly right. I mean, save it for a read later or put it in your Instapaper or something. All right. Well, thank you for selecting those tweets very much. Great. And everyone should be following at Walrus Lifestyle and at Flora__Flora. And now we get into the questions from Twitter. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of great questions. And everyone, if you want to send a question for a future guest, go ahead and follow at FOTS Pod on Twitter and send those questions. Now, first, we have a question from previous week's guest at Dave_Cactus, another underscore guy. And his question for you is, if you were in a car driving the speed of light and you turned on your headlights, would anything happen? It's a real noodle scratcher. You're smart, but maybe not science smart.
I am. Yeah, this is definitely not my thing. But I think, right, because you'd be traveling the same speed as the light from your headlights. Nobody, like, if someone standing outside the car wouldn't notice a difference. Like, they wouldn't see the headlights because you'd be traveling the same speed as
they probably wouldn't even see the car.
Yeah, they wouldn't see the car either, but yeah.
And I hope you're wearing a seatbelt, Dave.
Now, if somebody was outside of your car also traveling the speed of light, then I don't know.
Now we're getting
I'm not a physicist.
And if you were on the edge of a black hole, even, what would be happening then? No, I'm just kidding. So thank you very much, Dave, and everyone go check out his podcast episode from last week, and definitely also check him out on Making Friends with Mark McGark. Great cactus stories on that one too. Now we get into the questions submitted on Twitter. First question comes from friend of the show, numero uno. I'm talking Jess OK Fine, just the best. Everyone follow Jess at Jess OK Fine. And her questions: which are better, cats or dogs? Or option C, it's a tie.
So
you agonized over this one.
I will say, like, certainly I love both cats and dogs, as we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. I would say if I had to just have one, like if I had just one pet,
desert island,
I would say if it was a desert island scenario, I'd probably take a dog.
Oh, okay.
Because the dog would be more helpful and useful for hunting.
Right. So I'm saying, so this is more of like a
but I think,
house arrest or something.
Right. And it's right. And like a house situation, I would say cat because they're lower maintenance.
Okay. Yeah.
With the dogs, I have to like feed them, at specific times. I have to let them out, at specific times. They ask to get let out at if they know their schedule and they start to get antsy. And I, of course, love my dogs, but I would say if it just was one, I'd take the cat just because, like, with the cat, I clean his litter box and then put some food in his bowl.
I don't think the dogs like their answer.
He's fine. So.
I can hear some dogs protesting your answer.
Yeah, they are protesting it. No, I would say if I just had to have one, it'd be a cat.
All right, so there you go, Jess. Next question comes in from friend of the show, Timmy at the Timmy Toes, and he asks, "What is your favorite length of sock?"
Well, I guess I wear short socks most of the time, like, those ankle socks that, like,
wear short socks.
Is that a song?
Short shorts, but I changed it to socks.
Oh, okay. That, ideally, if you have your shoes on, you shouldn't see the sock.
Okay, so you're talking about those ankle socks.
Yeah.
So, like, as short as you can get of sock.
Right. That's what I wear most of the time.
All right. Well, there you go, Timmy. Thank you for that pressing question. Now, a question from Thomas Brendel at The Solemn Bard. And he has two questions. The first question, what story about robots would be better if some of the characters were secretly robots? I misspoke on that one. What story without robots would be better if some of the characters were secretly robots? It changes the question.
Okay, but there's a part two.
Oh, right. So I'll ask the part two as well.
Oh, okay.
What story with robots would be better if some of the robots were secretly dogs?
And the reason I was saying, there's a part two is because I thought about this and I actually answered it with the same thing. Star Wars, right? Like how for both.
Oh, that's great.
Like, right? Because, I mean, Star Wars deals with, like, there are a lot of droids in Star Wars and there are essentially treated as like these second-class citizens.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting,
they're
right?
low
if like
on the caste
some
system.
of the characters were secretly droids. But also, how cool would it be if like R2D2 popped his lid open and like some like chihuahuas were in there, like operating some controls.
The Taco Bell, Yo Quiero Taco Bell dog in there.
Like C-3PO is, secretly like 3 dogs stacked on top of each other.
Classic.
It'd be fantastic.
Well, there you go. So, Star Wars, answer to all your questions. Thank you for that, Thomas. And here we go. The next question comes from Llama in a Tux at Llama in a Tux. And he asks, who would win in a fight between a fighting bot and a raccoon? Now, here's the twist. The raccoon has his orange belt, but the bot is only yellow.
I'm going to just have to go with... I'm going to have to just go with the raccoon on that one. They're just so scrappy.
They're scrappy. And also, they're ahead in belt status.
Yes, and that's true. So I would definitely have to go with the raccoon.
So 2 reasons for that one. Thank you for that very interesting question, Llama, at Llama in a Tux. And now a question from another Ben, or Bun, at Iminmin. And the questions. Do robots cry? Can they feel emotion? Are they afraid to die? How do I know I'm not a robot? Also, what is your favorite color?
Okay, so I'll start with the favorite color bit first. I would say I like the color yellow.
Yeah, it's
a great color.
Interesting choice.
And interestingly enough, I don't have any like yellow clothes or like I don't like go out and like get things that are yellow.
Right.
Like it's not like, but I always find that it's like a cool or interesting color. When I used to play Halo back in the day, I'd want my Spartan armor to be yellow. I just thought it looked cool.
Right.
So I would say yellow, and maybe black. I like especially yellow and black together.
Black and yellow, as it were. Shout out to Pittsburgh teams.
So
the robots.
The answer to those robot questions. So there's a book called, it was written in 50-something, by a guy named John Cohen, called Human Robots in Myth and Science. And what he says is that what distinguishes humans from robots ultimately is that robots don't laugh, blush, or commit suicide. I'm not totally sure I agree with him, but that's what he says. I would say that another interesting way to think about that question is, do robots cry? Can they feel emotion? Are they afraid to die? How do I know I'm not a robot? Is, if you were a robot, what would you be doing differently? And the answer is probably nothing, right? Like, because
you'd be programmed to not know,
like,
yeah.
So what I would say, I think my response would be to think of robot as having a dual definition, that there is the definition of robot, and if you look it up in a dictionary, this is what you'll find. There's like a dual definition of robot, and I talk about this in the dissertation. But one is it's a machine that appears to move on its own power, and another is that it's a person who appears to like act in a robot-like way. Right. Who maybe doesn't seem to be acting of its own free will. And I use that example when talking about an episode from the Twilight Zone called The Mind and the Matter, where this character named Archibald Beechcroft, he goes to work every day at his like nondescript office job doing nondescript office things, and he just hates his job. And one day, through a series of events, he's given by a coworker a book called The Mind and the Matter, How to Unlock the Secret Powers of Concentration, or something like that. And the argument in the book is that if you just concentrate hard enough, you can make anything happen. So what Beechcroft winds up doing is wishing everybody in the world away, makes everybody disappear. And once everybody is gone, he's now like, I'm now free at my job. So he goes to work and he's like, look at how productive I can be because nobody else is around. And he eventually realizes like, I'm lonely. And so he makes everything back the way it was. But what's fascinating about that is like how capitalism has significantly limited the horizon of the imaginable. In the words of like Frederick Jameson, well, this is sort of paraphrase of Jameson and I guess Slavoj Žižek, that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism.
Oh, Žižek.
And there's something similar going on here with Archibald Beechcroft, right? It's easier to imagine, right, making everybody in the world disappear than it is to imagine not going to work. And so Archibald Beechcroft, who's obviously a human, right, behaves in a mechanical way, which is to say, goes to work, does the same things every day, does what his boss tells him. And there's a line his boss tells him at one point in the episode. This is a Twilight Zone episode. I don't remember if I said that. His boss tells him at one point in the episode, he says, you need to stay healthy, Archibald, because your health is not just important for you, but it's part of your duty to your employer.
Mm.
And so that you think about like a lot of the like language and rhetoric when we talk about like health and why it's important to, exercise and eat healthy is in large part because as subjects of capitalism, we need to be able to work at least until you're 65.
Got to.
And so my response here, right, when it says, how do I know I'm not a robot is, well, what would you be doing differently if you were a robot versus if you were a human? And my response is you probably wouldn't be doing anything differently. Not as a subject of capitalism, right? You'd be just returning and repeating and doing the same thing anyway.
Ooh, we got deep on that one. So, something for you to think about, Ben. Mm-hmm. Think about it. How do you know? You don't. You just don't. I guess.
And not obviously like you're not a robot, as in like in the Terminator 2. There's that scene where Schwarzenegger like cuts his arm open and peels back the flesh to prove that like, look, I'm a machine.
Yeah.
I don't mean that we're robots in that sense.
No, but you can still fit into that dictionary
But exactly, that you can fit into that dictionary definition of what a robot is. And I'm unconvinced that even if we were robots, we would be acting any differently.
Dun, dun, dun. Ben, you could be a robot. Sorry, Bal. So thank you very much for your question. And now a very special write-in question from Tom at Trojan Sauce. Number 1. Who the hell do you think you are?
That...
You can just laugh it off. He's got a follow-up question.
Okay, what's the follow-up question?
Mackerel or haddock? Those are fish. Which kind of fish do you like?
I've never heard of either of those. Like to eat?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't eat. I don't eat.
All right, you're not a pescatarian.
Yeah, I'm not. So what are the fish called?
Mackerel or haddock? Clickety-clack. I hear the keys. He's going to find out what the fish are. And
I'm going to look these up.
I think you can choose a third option, which is neither.
Yeah, I'm going to say neither. I'm just going to decide which one I think looks cooler. Well, I think I like the way that mackerels look. I think they've got these pretty stripes.
Holy mackerel, we got an answer. So thank you very much, Tom. And everyone go check him out at Trojan Sauce and check out his podcast, Interested in Music. All right. Final questions come in from friend of the show, Rads. I'm talking at Feeling Euphoric. And she asks 3 questions, and the 3 questions are this. Number 1. You're given the chance to pet literally any animal in the world without consequence. Which animal do you pet?
I sat down to sort of like think about this one and try to come up with a really great answer, but I just wound up going with my gut, and that is a raccoon. I just love raccoons.
Yeah.
They're really one of the best animals, but I don't want one to like bite my face off.
For sure.
So if I could like just be friends with a raccoon for a day, that would be fantastic.
Be pretty cool. And the next best thing is following at Upside Down Trash on Twitter. Shout out to Will. So there you go. Question 1, it was raccoon. Question 2, chocolate chip pancakes. Overrated?
No, I think that chocolate chip pancakes, if anything, are underrated.
Ooh.
I think they're fantastic.
All right. And the third question, you've been told that you're the person to name the next major hurricane. What do you name it?
I would name it Hurricane Stan, after my dog Stan.
Oh, that's sweet.
Stan's a harmless little boy, and I would hope that by naming the Hurricane Stan, it would infuse it with his harmless spirit, and
signature personality,
and so that nobody would be hurt.
It would be just out to sea. It wouldn't hover over land like, problematic hurricanes. All right, so that is all the questions we've got. Thank you very much to everyone who has submitted a question, and be sure to follow at FOTS Pod on Twitter, and be sure to send those questions in for the future guests. All right, now we've had some robot talk, but let's wrap it up with talking about your dissertation. You're a PhD of robots. So, well, you sent me this dissertation for your PhD, and it's called The Machine Gun Hand, Robots, Performance, and American Ideology in the 20th Century.
So first off, I'll say, so my PhD is not in robots. It is, my PhD is in, I want to make sure that that's clear. My PhD is in theater.
Okay. That makes sense why it's performance.
Yes. My PhD is in theater. But I'm interested in robots as a site of performance for a number of reasons. But basically, in the dissertation, what I argue is that there is, like Bun's question, or Ben, the other Ben, right? When he says, how do I know I'm not a robot? Is that there's this strong impulse that we have to want to define ourselves as something, as not that, right? To reclaim a sense of innate or natural humanity in opposition to this other thing. And that there are a lot of films and even plays about this very idea, hence why I'm looking at sort of performance as an important site to understand robots. I'm not interested in I don't know anything about how robots actually work. I mean, I couldn't build a robot, right? I'm not
right.
That's not my thing. I'm more interested in the idea of robots as they exist in our imaginations.
Right.
And so there's this strong impulse to be like, I'm not that. I'm not a robot. But my argument is that the kind of ideological function of really most narrative generally, but robot fiction specifically, is to reify or re-entrench capitalism in the imaginative mind. So that you look at the robot and you say, okay, robots don't have agency. Robots don't make choices. Robots do the same things every day. I don't do those things. I'm an individual with choice, and I have my own mind with ideas and thoughts that spring from my own original self. And as Althusser argues, who's theoretically central to the dissertation, that capitalism wants us to imagine that our so-called worldview is something that springs from our own original thoughts, so that you then, quote, choose capitalism as opposed to any other system as like a free subject. So that in looking at robot narratives and saying, I'm not that, I'm an individual with agency and choice, that's what the sort of heart of capitalism is, wanting us to see ourselves as free individuals, free subjects with choices. And of course, under capitalism, the thing we always, quote, choose is capitalism. In the words of Margaret Thatcher, right, there is no alternative. Ooh. And so it's difficult to imagine ourselves as having any other political option or alternative. So that robot narratives perform this ideological function of reifying capitalism.
There you go.
And making capitalism seem as not a system that comes from outside of ourselves, but as a natural process that emerges from our own thoughts.
Inescapable.
Well, I would say that it is not inescapable, but I would say that a lot of what appears to be resistance is in fact not resistance to capitalism.
Oh, I get it.
That capitalism is very, very good at taking resistance to capitalism and selling it back to you.
Yeah.
I mean, walk into Barnes & Noble. You can go buy Das Kapital, right? I mean, it's just for sale right there in the bookstore. Someone posted on Twitter years ago, and I haven't been able to find this tweet since, but it was in a bookstore. It was a picture of 1984 being, for sale in the bookstore. And his caption was, "I don't know why people still, bang on about this book." And right underneath the book is a sign that says, "This shop is monitored by CCTV."
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, capitalism doesn't care, right? They're very happy to sell you like the revolution. It's for sale. And so I think there are ways to like resist or think outside of capitalism, but most of what appears to be resistance is not.
So not inescapable, but if you're trying to escape, you could be doing it wrong.
Right.
Great. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. You feeling okay? You feeling good about it?
Yeah.
Get all your points across?
Good conversation.
Great. So now to end the podcast, I'll play the theme and we'll say our goodbyes. So thank you very much for appearing on the podcast and discussing all the robots.
Hey, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Great, I'm glad. And everyone, please follow at Benicus_Rex on Twitter for all the good stuff. We'll see you next time. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Ben. You may, of course, check him out at Benicus_Rex on Twitter. You may also check out at FOTS Pod and do send a question for future guests. On Twitter, I operate under the handle at SkinnerSteven. And point that browser at StephenWSkinner.com for all the old episodes. Subscribe and get a new episode automatically every week. And thank you to Kyle I. Davidson for the theme. And thank you to Ruby Coast for the music. And thank you very much for listening. Have a great one.